language adventurers, and curious minds. A very big, warm welcome back to another episode of Idiom Insights. I'm Emma, and I am absolutely delighted to be your guide once again as we navigate the intriguing pathways of everyday English. It's always such a pleasure to share this learning space with you and delve into how these phrases shape our communication.
And a very hearty hello from me too. It's Jack, your companion in connotation, back again and eager to explore 4 more fascinating phrases that bring English to life. Welcome back to Idiom Insights. It's genuinely wonderful to be here. You know, Emma, the more we do these episodes, the more I appreciate how idioms often capture feelings or situations that are quite hard to describe accurately with just literal language. They offer a kind of shorthand for shared human experience.
That's such a perceptive point, Jack. They truly are a shorthand, packed with imagery and implied meaning. Today's batch is a perfect example, dealing with profound confusion, finding a unique place in the world, the ethics of criticism, and the burden of resentment. Understanding these specific idioms allows learners to grasp not just the situation, but the speaker's attitude towards it. Are they confused, ambitious, cautious, or judgmental? This grasp of attitude is so vital for truly understanding and connecting in any language.
Connection through connotation. I like that. So let's get ready to connect with the deeper meanings behind today's idioms. On this carefully prepared episode of Idiom Insights, we are going to meticulously explore these 4 impactful expressions. First, facing total confusion. Can't make heads or tails of it, when something is just baffling. Next, finding your special place. Carve out a niche. How to succeed by specializing. Then, the right or lack thereof to criticize. Cast the first stone. A phrase heavy with moral implication. And finally, carrying resentment. Chip on your shoulder. What does this invisible burden look like?
A really fascinating group, Jack, covering comprehension, strategy, morality, and attitude. Before we try to make sense of complete confusion with our first idiom, we'd love to share that very quick, friendly reminder from your Idiom Insights hosts. If you're finding these explorations into the nuances of English useful and you don't want to miss any future episodes, please do consider taking just a moment to hit that subscribe or follow button wherever you listen. It's the best way to stay in the loop.
Indeed it is. It ensures you get every episode delivered straight to your device, hassle-free. And if you feel so inclined, a little like or a positive rating helps us tremendously. It signals to others that we're offering valuable content and really motivates us to keep digging deeper into the world of idioms. Okay, motivational moment over. Emma, let's talk about those times when something is just utterly incomprehensible. What does it mean when you can't make heads or tails of something? It sounds like complete disorientation.
It absolutely implies complete disorientation, Jack. When you say you can't make heads or tails of something, it means you are completely unable to understand it at all. It makes no sense to you. You can't find any logic, order, or meaning in it. It signifies total confusion or bewilderment. The origin likely relates to coins, where heads is one side and tails is the other. If you can't distinguish one from the other or make sense of either side, you're completely lost. It implies a level of confusion beyond just finding something difficult. It's about a fundamental lack of comprehension.
That distinction between difficult and unable to make heads or tails of is crucial, isn't it? You might find a complex scientific paper difficult, meaning you need to study it hard to understand it. But if you look at, say, incredibly badly written instructions, full of contradictions and unclear diagrams, you might genuinely be unable to grasp any meaning or sequence at all. That's when you can't make heads or tails of it. Or perhaps someone tries to explain a bizarre dream they had. Jumping between unrelated events with no logical flow, you might listen politely but think, I honestly can't make heads or tails of this story. It emphasizes the lack of discernible sense or structure.
Exactly. The lack of discernible sense is key. It applies to written text, spoken explanations, complex situations, abstract concepts, even sometimes people's behavior if it seems completely illogical or contradictory. It's that feeling of looking at puzzle pieces that simply don't seem to belong to the same puzzle. You try to find a starting point, a pattern, a way in, but nothing clicks. It's a statement of complete mental bafflement, being utterly unable to grasp the meaning or logic.
Bafflement is the perfect word. Right, let's see what has Mia and Mark completely confused. What situation are they unable to decipher?
Mark, have you had a chance to look at that email Mr. Henderson from the Residence Committee sent around yesterday evening? The one outlining his revised proposal for the garden maintenance schedule?
Yes, I opened it this morning over breakfast, intending to read it properly. But Mia, I have to be honest, I spent about 10 minutes staring at it, and I am completely lost.
Oh, good. It's not just me then. I read it twice last night, and I honestly can't make heads or tails of it. One paragraph seems to suggest volunteers will do the mowing on Tuesdays, but then the next paragraph talks about hiring a professional gardening service for fortnightly visits. And then there's a complicated rota involving different residents being responsible for weeding specific, numbered plots. But the plot numbering doesn't seem to match the old garden plan.
Exactly. And did you understand that section about the composting bins? It seemed to contradict itself 3 times regarding what can and cannot be put in them. I was trying to figure out who is supposed to do what and when, and according to which conflicting rule, but it's just a jumble of confusing instructions.
It really is. Normally his emails are quite clear, if a bit bossy. But this one, it's like he wrote different sections at different times and never checked if they made sense together. I truly can't make heads or tails of the proposed schedule or the responsibilities. We'll have to ask for major clarification at the next meeting.
Definitely. Right now, that email is completely indecipherable. You read it, I read it, and neither of us can make heads or tails of it. Clarity is definitely needed.
That dialogue clearly demonstrates the intended meaning. The email isn't just poorly written, it's contradictory and confusing to the point where Mia and Mark cannot understand the proposed plan at all.
Precisely. Their repeated use of "can't make heads or tails of it" emphasizes their complete inability to find logic or clarity in the information presented. It perfectly illustrates the idiom signifying total bewilderment due to lack of sense or structure. Listeners, what's the last thing you encountered that you just couldn't make heads or tails of?
Now, from confusion, let's move to finding clarity and purpose in a specific area. Our second idiom today is carve out a niche. Jack, this sounds like creating a special place for oneself. What does it involve?
It absolutely involves creating a special, well-defined place, Emma. To carve out a niche means to develop a specific, specialized area of expertise, business, or activity where you can be successful because it focuses on a particular subgroup, need, or product that isn't being fully addressed by the mainstream market. The word carve implies skill, effort, and precision. You're not just falling into something. You're actively creating a specific space for yourself within a broader field. A niche is like a small recess or hollow in a wall, a perfect fit for something specific.
That image of carving a specific space is very powerful. It suggests identifying an unmet need or an underserved audience and then skillfully developing the products, services, or expertise to fit that specific space perfectly. It often involves specializing rather than trying to appeal to everyone. Think of a bookshop in an era of giant online retailers. It might carve out a niche by specializing only in rare first editions, or perhaps focusing on books by local authors and hosting community events. They aren't competing directly with the giants on price or volume. They're creating a unique space by serving a specific interest group exceptionally well.
Exactly. That specialization is key to survival and success within the niche. Or consider a lawyer who, instead of handling all kinds of cases, decides to carve out a niche focusing exclusively on intellectual property law for independent musicians. They develop deep expertise in that specific area, becoming the go-to expert for that particular client group. This allows them to stand out from general practice lawyers and potentially charge premium fees for their specialized knowledge. It's about being a big fish in a small, carefully chosen pond, rather than a small fish in a huge ocean.
A big fish in a small pond. That captures the strategy perfectly. It requires identifying that pond, that specific need or market gap, and then developing the unique skills or offerings to fill it better than anyone else. It's about focused expertise and targeted appeal. Let's hear from Mia and Mark. Are they discussing someone who has successfully found their special place?
Mark, remember my friend Sarah who trained as a chef, but was finding it hard to get started with her own catering business because the competition is so fierce?
Yes, I remember her mentioning how tough it was competing with all the established caterers offering standard wedding menus, party buffets, and corporate lunches. Has she had any luck recently?
Well, she decided to completely change her strategy. Instead of trying to offer everything, she noticed there was a growing demand for high-quality, completely gluten-free and vegan celebration cakes. things like elaborate birthday cakes, wedding cakes, anniversary cakes, but specifically for people with those dietary requirements. Apparently, it was really hard to find bakers who specialized only in that and did it really well with creative designs.
So focusing only on gluten-free and vegan celebration cakes? That's quite specific. Most bakers might offer one or two options, but specializing entirely is different.
Exactly. She spent months perfecting recipes, sourcing specific ingredients, and developing beautiful designs that met those strict dietary needs without compromising on taste or appearance. And now, her business is booming. She's getting orders from all over the region because she's become known as the expert in that specific area. She really managed to carve out a niche for herself.
Wow, that's brilliant. By identifying that specific unmet need and focusing all her skills there, she avoided the direct competition and created her own dedicated market. A perfect example of how carving out a niche can lead to success. Good for Sarah.
That's a fantastic illustration of the idiom. Sarah didn't try to compete broadly. She identified a specific gap and focused her efforts precisely there.
Exactly. Mia uses carve out a niche to describe Sarah's successful strategy of specializing in high-quality vegan and gluten-free celebration cakes, thereby creating her own specific successful space within the broader catering market. It highlights the effort and focused specialization involved. Listeners of Idiom Insights, can you think of other examples of businesses or people who have successfully carved out a niche?
Now, let's move from specialization to the potentially perilous area of criticism and judgment. Our third idiom, cast the first stone, has deep roots and carries significant weight, doesn't it, Emma?
It certainly does, Jack. Its origins are biblical, referring to the story where Jesus challenges a crowd preparing to stone a woman accused of adultery, saying, "Let him who is without sin among you be the first to throw a stone at her." The crowd disperses, realizing their own imperfections. So, idiomatically, to cast the first stone means to be the first person to criticize, accuse, or blame someone else for a perceived fault or wrongdoing. Importantly, the phrase carries a strong implication that the person doing the criticizing should perhaps examine their own flaws first, suggesting that only someone completely faultless has the moral authority to condemn others so harshly. It often serves as a caution against hypocrisy and overly judgmental attitudes.
That inherent caution against hypocrisy is really central to its meaning, isn't it? It's rarely used simply to mean criticize first. It nearly always carries that undertone of, are you really in a position to judge so severely? It forces a moment of self-reflection, or at least it's intended to. You might hear it used defensively. Okay, I made a mistake, but who are you to cast the first stone? You've done similar things yourself. Or it might be used rhetorically by someone observing harsh criticism. Everyone is attacking her online, but perhaps they should think twice before casting the first stone. It serves as a powerful reminder of universal human imperfection.
Absolutely. It's a call for humility and perspective in judgment. Because the phrase is so well known and carries this moral weight, simply invoking it can sometimes be enough to make people pause and reconsider their own critical stance. It's not about excusing the wrongdoing necessarily, but about questioning the right of flawed individuals to be the first or the harshest in their condemnation of others. It asks us to consider empathy and our shared fallibility before rushing to judgment.
Well said, Emma. Humility and shared fallibility. Let's listen to Mia and Mark. How does this concept of judgment and criticism play out in their conversation?
Mark, did you hear what happened with David from accounts? Apparently, he made quite a significant error in the budget forecast last month, and it caused a lot of problems and extra work for several departments.
Oh dear, yes, I did hear something about that. That's not like David at all. He's usually so meticulous and careful. I hope he's not in too much trouble over it. People make mistakes after all.
Well, you wouldn't think so listening to Sarah talk about it in the kitchen earlier. She was really laying into him, saying how incompetent he was, how she couldn't believe anyone could make such a basic mistake, how it reflected badly on the whole team. She was being incredibly harsh and quite loud about it.
Sarah was saying that? Publicly in the kitchen? That doesn't sound very supportive or professional, especially since, if I recall correctly, Sarah herself made a pretty big scheduling error last year that caused chaos for the sales team.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. While David's mistake was serious, Sarah is hardly perfect herself. For her to be so quick to criticize him so harshly and publicly, it felt very unfair. Honestly, listening to her go on, I almost felt like saying, maybe you shouldn't be so quick to cast the first stones.
It sounds like someone probably should have. It's easy to criticize others' mistakes, but much harder to acknowledge our own fallibility. Given her own past errors, Sarah certainly wasn't in a position to cast the first stone with such self-righteous anger. Hopefully, the managers handled David's situation more constructively.
That conversation clearly highlights the hypocrisy aspect associated with the idiom. Sarah is harshly criticizing David for a mistake, despite having made significant errors herself in the past.
Precisely. Mia feels uncomfortable with Sarah's severe judgment and considers using the idiom, cast the first stone, or the sentiment behind it, to point out that Sarah, being flawed herself, lacks the moral high ground for such public condemnation. Mark agrees, reinforcing that Sarah was not in a position to initiate such harsh criticism. It perfectly shows the idiom used to question the right to judge. Listeners, do you agree with the principle behind "let him who is without sin cast the first stone"?
And finally, let's explore our fourth idiom, which describes a particular kind of negative attitude: chip on your shoulder. Jack, this sounds like carrying a burden. What kind of burden is it?
It's an emotional burden, Emma. Specifically one of resentment or grievance. If someone is described as having a chip on their shoulder, it means they seem perpetually angry, defensive, resentful, or argumentative because they believe they have been treated unfairly in the past or feel consistently slighted or inferior. They carry this sense of grievance around with them, like an imaginary chip of wood balanced on their shoulder, daring someone to knock it off. And it negatively colors their interactions with others. They might be overly sensitive to perceived criticism, quick to take offense, or seem eager for confrontation.
So it's about past grievances affecting present behavior in a negative, often defensive or aggressive way. It's not just feeling wronged about a specific incident. It's a more persistent attitude, a default stance of defensiveness or resentment. You might describe someone who constantly complains about how unfair life is, blames others for their problems, and gets into arguments easily as having a chip on their shoulder. Or someone who comes from a disadvantaged background might unfortunately develop a chip on their shoulder, feeling they constantly have to prove themselves and reacting aggressively to any perceived slight, even if none was intended. It suggests they are interpreting present events through the lens of past unfairness.
That lens of past unfairness is key. It makes them hypersensitive and prone to misinterpreting neutral interactions as hostile or dismissive. It's generally seen as a negative personality trait because it makes interacting with the person difficult and often unpleasant. They seem to be almost looking for reasons to feel offended or to start a conflict, as if challenging the world to acknowledge their past grievance. It's like they're carrying a weight that sours their outlook.
Sours their outlook is a very apt description. It's a persistent sense of being hard done by that affects their personality. Let's listen to Mia and Mark's final conversation. Who are they describing with this resentful attitude?
Sarah, Mark, I tried having a friendly chat with the new guy in the marketing team, Alex, by the coffee machine this morning. Just making small talk, you know?
Oh yes, Alex. He started last week, didn't he? How did it go? He seemed okay when I was briefly introduced.
Well, it was strange. I just asked him casually how he was settling in, and he immediately got quite defensive. He started going on about how he hoped this company wasn't like his last place, where management apparently didn't appreciate his talents and promoted less qualified people over him.
Really? He launched into all that just from you asking how he was settling in? That sounds a bit intense for a casual coffee machine chat.
Tell me about it. Then I mentioned the upcoming team building day, just trying to be positive. And he immediately made some sarcastic comment about how those things are usually a waste of time and designed to patronize employees. Everything I said, he seemed to twist into something negative or react defensively.
That doesn't sound great. Based on that interaction, it sounds like he might have arrived with a bit of a chip on his shoulder from his previous job experience. If he's interpreting everything defensively and bringing resentment from his past into this new role already, that could make working with him quite difficult.
That's exactly what I felt. It was like he was expecting criticism or negativity before I'd even finished my sentence. Definitely seemed like he has a chip on his shoulder about something. Hopefully he settles down once he feels more secure here.
That interaction clearly points to Alex's negative attitude. His defensiveness and immediate negativity in response to Mia's friendly small talk suggest he's carrying resentment.
Precisely. Mark identifies this behavior as potentially stemming from a chip on his shoulder due to past negative experiences, and Mia agrees. It illustrates how the idiom describes a persistent state of defensiveness and resentment that colors interactions. Listeners of Idiom Insights, how can someone overcome having a chip on their shoulder?
And with that final thought on attitudes shaped by the past, we conclude our exploration of 4 more common and insightful English idioms. It's been a really interesting mix today. Let's quickly recap the phrases we've learned.
It certainly has. Today on Idiom Insights, we discussed can't make heads or tails of it, to be completely unable to understand something, carve out a niche, to develop a specialized, successful area of work or business, cast the first stone, to be the first to criticize or accuse, often implying hypocrisy, chip on your shoulder, an attitude of being angry or resentful due to past perceived unfairness.
Fantastic! We truly hope that our detailed discussions today, exploring the nuances, origins, and implications of these idioms, have given you a really robust understanding. Remember, using idioms effectively is often about grasping these deeper layers.
Absolutely. Keep noticing them, keep thinking about their implications, and don't be afraid to use them when you feel confident about the context. And if you found today's Idiom Insights episode helpful on your English journey, we would be incredibly grateful if you could spare a moment to leave us a like, a rating, or a positive review. It makes a real difference.
And please make sure you're subscribed or following Idiom Insights so you don't miss out on any of our future explorations. We're committed to bringing you regular episodes packed with useful explanations. We absolutely love having you as part of our global learning community.
We really do appreciate you spending your time with us. Until next time, keep learning with joy and curiosity, keep practicing, and enjoy the wonderful process of mastering English. Goodbye for now.
Bye, everyone. Take care, stay positive, and maybe try to avoid getting a chip on your shoulder. Happy learning!